It's a brand new year, 2013. Can you believe it? This month is the month through the year where there are a lot of marriages that fall apart. This is very important. You better stay tuned. Well, welcome back to the show in 2013. I certainly hope you had a good holiday break, whatever your faith tradition is or your family tradition. I hope it went well for you. We know in the month of January, that time when we start assessing who we are and where we are, a lot of couples have some pretty hard conversations. They may decide not to carry on as a married couple or a couple living together. So even though it sounds like a bit of a down subject, this is very important because it's about your money and mental health. My guest today is Gail Belchior, who is with Financial Divorce Solutions. Gail, welcome.
Thank you.
Now, January is that time of the year where people say, do I really want to be here? What I've learned from you in the past is that people decide that they will no longer stay together. And then you come in. Tell me about that process.
Often it's a case of one is either said to the other, it's over. So they've said it, they've heard it, it's emotionally stressful. Devastating if it's not something that's been anticipated, and emotionally a time when family and friends should be helping the individual, but often are giving poor advice. So my suggestion is that the family law professionals can step in and help, such as Financial Divorce Solutions.
I don't know a lot about divorce. I've been married a long time, happily married a long time, but I do know people who've been through divorce. I've seen some women go into abject poverty, and I've seen anger, ferocious anger between one another. How can we help avoid that?
If individuals can separate the parts of divorce, there's sort of two parts. There's the legal and financial decision making, and there's the emotional divorce. Working with mental health professionals, family and friends for that support is part of it. The other part is the legal and the financial. And keeping those two separate as much as you can and not letting the emotions rule your financial decision making is key.
I would think that some people who have agreed or not agreed to divorce, there's enormous emotion and things are said that they would regret later, or the relationship gets even worse. What advice could you give to those people?
In the emotional side of things, it's difficult, as you say, when something's out there. It's already been said. When you can't take it back, it's a case of looking more forward, trying to figure out how do you make the decisions. How do you move forward in a way that's going to be healthy and helpful for you and the other person? Although you really at that point don't care about the other person, in the long term, especially when children are involved, there's still a connection. You're a family, you're just living in two different homes. And financially, that can be very devastating when you're having to make decisions and you're letting your emotions rule those.
Are we at a divorce rate of about 50%?
Statistically, it's hard. It's not really tracked any longer. The statistics I've seen are around 38% for Canada. The higher, or the rate of divorce that's increasing now, are those that are called the gray divorce. Those who are long-term marriages, 20, 25 years on up, who are then saying to each other, this is not what I want, you're not the person I want to spend time with, I'm moving on, or they decide together that this is a time for them to separate. Their children may be in the teen years or have already moved out. It's financially complicated for them, but a little less difficult because there aren't child and parenting issues.
We both know a lawyer in St. Catharines who once told me that he has a client whose husband was an auto worker. And this lawyer said to his client, the female, do you understand the size of his pension? She said, I don't want any of it. And the lawyer said, it's a lot of money. Do you get into those conversations?
Absolutely. One of the first things when I'm working with a couple or individuals is full financial disclosure. If that isn't done, you really can't proceed until you have all those pieces of the puzzle on the table. And that's what I say to clients. We've got to find where the assets are, what form they're in, and then look at how they can be divided and what would be appropriate for both parties. Pensions are kind of an odd character in the conversation with a client. Many see it as something that is the sacred cow and not going to be put on the table at all. Others feel it needs to be on the table, and discussions can take place around that. But a pension valuation is a necessary part of full financial disclosure.
But if someone, I know of a case, again, an auto situation, where there are private conversations behind pillars, and they're giving, the guys are giving one another advice of, whatever you do, don't tell your wife about the pension. Can you find out what the pension is?
The actual wife can find out what the pension is.
You or the wife? Or?
I can't, because it's confidential information. I can assist a party to have that assessment done. A year ago, there was new pension legislation that came into effect. So family law value pension is administered by the pension company provincially and is part of what is done for the pension. Now, it is possible during a family law discussion that some item is not going to be put on the table. My concern around that is, if you're making that decision, are you making it fully informed? As you say, do you really know how much that pension is worth? Do you know, if you don't include that as a divisible asset, what your future lifestyle will look like going forward in 5, 10, 15 years? And there's where the concerns of decisions made today have an impact on future lifestyle. And that's one of the things Financial Divorce Solutions can really work with an individual or a couple, lawyer or mediator, to be able to determine this is a better scenario than this option or a third option. And the pension can play part of that in all three scenarios, or maybe just in one of the scenarios, and something is altered and it's an equitable division in another way. It doesn't have to be 50-50 of every asset that the couple has.
Do you find that when you sit down with your clients, if they've gone through the emotional work of getting to make the phone call or the email to you, they're probably pretty steady and stable? Is that fair to say?
Generally speaking, that's a better time when you're emotionally distraught in the first phases of a divorce. And it's equated to being like the death. It's the death of your marriage. So there's a lot of grief and emotion and guilt in the first time frame, and everyone's time frame is different, of course. Once you've got past that and you've started to make some of the decisions, that's an optimum time to pull in family professionals. Not necessarily the lawyers initially, but the other family professionals, whether they be mental health, therapists, counselors, or a financial divorce specialist, to help you look at that piece of the puzzle and start the process of full financial disclosure.
I would imagine, give us some scope of the clients that you would work with. Are some low income, below poverty? Are some very wealthy? Combination
of all. I'll get phone calls from individuals seeking just some general information, and that's an over the telephone conversation, and there's not a lot of depth there. For others, there may be a small business involved, and that becomes a more complicated conversation than individuals who have more limited assets that they need to financially divide. But those with limited assets have to look at their cash flow going forward. Often the mistake is made in making the decision today on keeping the house and giving up assets, liquid assets, cash, in trade-off for the house, especially when children are involved. They see the house as being a stable force. The problem is, in a very short period of time, you're asset rich and cash poor. You need cash to be able to put groceries on the table. And that's where that whole economic problem comes into play.
Do you find typically that you work with the couple?
I probably have, in terms of my client base, about 50-50, where it is an individual I'm working with, and it's not only women, it's men as well, individuals. And then it's the couple. The preferred method to stay out of the courts, to keep the emotional and the stress down, to keep the cost of the whole process down, is to work as a couple. Doesn't mean I have to meet with the two of them at the same time, because sometimes that's not really the best for them, but both of them are working on the process together to have an end result that works for each of them.
And is it a good idea to sign some kind of agreement at this stage? It's not the full divorce yet, but tell us about that agreement.
If I'm working in the capacity as a financial family mediator, for which I have certification there, it's to work towards an understanding of the issues and how you're going to deal with those issues. And of course, one couple dealing with them can be a completely different decision making than another couple. At the end of that, there's a drafted up memorandum of understanding that then the individuals would take for independent legal counsel. If they go through the collaborative law process, they're working with their two lawyers in a collaborative way to get that end result of a separation agreement. And whether you're doing this around the kitchen table, whether you're doing it with a financial divorce specialist, a family mediator, or collaborative, the end result is you need a written agreement. You need something to be able to take to the bank, to be able to give to Revenue Canada that takes into account your tax consequences and your pension decisions, your budgeting for your future.
Now, your contact information is being shown on the screen so people can contact you, but we've only got a minute or so left. Give us some quick advice to everyone. In January, they might be thinking, I'm going to walk out, or she's going to walk out. What's the first couple of things I should do?
Take a deep breath. Think things through before you act, wherever possible. Seek out professional advice from the individual, whether it be a mental health therapist, a lawyer, financial divorce specialist, to help you through the process. Let your decision-making today take into account where your life is going, because you're ending one, your marriage is over, but your life is not. And that's really empowering and encouraging if you do it in a way where your emotions today, for the end of the marriage, don't rule the rest of how you are going to be financially.
You know, I don't know whether people get any kind of training to become married. I know, I need a license for a dog. I don't need a license to have a child, so we're a little weird that way. But for people who are about to get married, what advice would you have for them?
The main causes of problems around a marriage come from communication, the relationship with money. Often spenders marry savers. Well, that's kind of a recipe for some complications there. So seeking help and talking things over can often lead to a happier situation, and therefore not the separation and divorce. If individuals can take the time to spend with each other and figure out what each of them needs from that relationship, they're less likely to need me.
Wow. It's a lot to think about for people starting out, and it's got to be somewhat frightening for that older generation that one of those people has made a decision to leave. It's got to be very traumatic.
That's very difficult when I'm sitting across from someone who doesn't want the marriage to end, who doesn't want the relationship to end, wants to keep things together and improve or change, and the other has made the decision. My line is, it takes two to get married, it takes two to sign that marriage contract, it takes one to end the marriage. Now, two have worked on the ending of that marriage in all likelihood, but the actual decision can just be one person.
This is a very important discussion. It affects so many people today.
It does in a bigger and broader sense. Not only does it have impact on our children, it has impact on our community economically. We have individuals who do not have the finances going forward because of the decisions they've made around their separation and divorce agreement.
Gail, thanks for coming in. We'll have you back in a while and review this again. So there's some information for you in this new year and January. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk about a way to move from this to something that is very relaxing and good for you. Hang on. The other thing that happens in January of a new year is a lot of people look at themselves and say, what happened to me, my physique? So they join these gyms for a couple of months, pay all that money, and then they quit or don't go. There are other people in the community that do something much calmer. They engage in something called Tai Chi. I'm going to introduce you today to Kim Stevens, who lives in St. Catharines, and Kim and his friends run different Tai Chi classes in the region. Kim, what is, in a layperson's perspective, what is Tai Chi?
It's a very simple, profound, deep exercise that engages every bit of the body. It works the body in a very natural way, the way it's designed to work, and it done diligently, it can really realign the body and have some very deep, profound effects. It works on the skeletal system, circulatory, muscular system, and it works on the mind too. It sort of tames the heart, it reduces your stress. As you said, this is the time for getting rid of all of that buildup from Christmas. Mm-hmm. And if you do any resolutions at all, resolve to exercise.
So now that sounds great, and that's a form of exercise. When I go to my gym, mm-hmm. which is a more conventional gym, I work out hard on rowing and weights and all that stuff, and I do it quickly. Do you do this quickly?
No.
That's
no,
the
we
difference.
Don't. It is. It is an aerobic exercise for as calm and gentle as it appears. It is an aerobic exercise, but it's not impactful. Your knees don't take the pounding on the sidewalk. I used to work out. I used to lift weights. That was my exercise of choice. And I didn't think that was doing me any good unless I could explode a very large weight off my chest. Mm. And then I came to start doing this. And I'm thinking, like, what can that do? Oh, there it goes.
Talk to us about that. What's happening as you do that, Kim? I can't do it the way you do it, but what happens to your body when you do that?
For me, it's a very settling exercise. It's on the concept of equal and opposite. So one hand comes in and one hand comes out. And when you do it, you almost don't know whether the top hand's bringing the bottom hand in or the bottom hand's taking the top hand out. But it engages the entire body. It works through the chest, all of the muscles, the ligaments, tendons. It works, puts a load on the bones, which the body responds to by saying, I think I need to put some more calcium here, and it builds the bones up. So it's very, very simple little things have a very profound connection to the rest of the body.
And part of the benefit, I would think, is that it could improve concentration. Because I'm not doing this like a maniac in the gym. I'm being very deliberate and slow in my movements, wondering, why is this arm moving? What's behind, where's the hinge? Things like that. No?
Concentration is too much like work. Concentration makes you do this. Uh-huh. We relax. We do things by letting go. So it's all about relaxing and not exploding, but just relaxing into it. It's very meditative, as you say. So
when they come to a class, how long typically is a class?
Beginner classes run about an hour and a half, and after 3 months, you move into the continuing class, which are 2 hours in length.
That seems like a long time. Am I tired at the end of that?
Yes, yes, you are. It's not 2 hours of actually working, like really working at it. We do take some time in the middle to hydrate and to maybe have a bit of a snack, because it's a lot more physical than most people realize it is. And then we take that opportunity to talk about the Dallas Tai Chi Society and some of the things that we're about. For instance, we're a charity, and we talk about that. We talk about, well, the essence of Taoism is compassion. All the instructors are volunteers because they've gotten so much out of it. My instructors were so good to me here and across the province, opening the doors for me, that I was inspired to become an instructor myself and work at it. So we talk about, you know, the giving aspect of this art as well too.
We live, in my view, at a time in our culture where there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of anger, a lot of confusion. I would think that people would call you in big numbers. Now, they may not be because they don't know about it. But typically, who is that person who comes to you?
A lot of people come to us because they have health issues and they've heard about Tai Chi, whether it's through an interview like this or an article in a magazine, or sometimes we have quite a few doctors now recommending Taoist Tai Chi. And people come to us with health, but it's not necessarily, it recovers your body, it renovates your mind and body. So it's not just fixing what's wrong, it's also preventative. As we age, physiological changes do happen to us, and we can't help that. We do grow old. Beats the alternative, but we can slow down an awful lot of that through exercise. Any exercise is good, but in my opinion, Taoist Tai Chi is far better because it's so encompassing.
Does it build my strength?
It does.
How?
It works the muscles very deeply, right down to every little muscle fiber, and it connects into the bone. Without getting too detailed, the muscles and ligaments connect into the bone, so the bones actually spiral as well too. And it's, when you elongate the back, when you do the stretching, like if you can move every vertebrae that far apart, your back's going to grow about 2.5 inches and then come back in, so it's expand and contract, and it works. But not just the gross muscles, but all the little ones in between the vertebrae and along the vertebrae and everything.
Ones.
Yeah.
Do you find typically, Kim, that your students are more women or men?
We have more women than men. Yeah. But,
why is that, do you think?
I really don't have any idea. I'd like to see more men come in. It's good. We'd like to see more young people come in, but again, I think sometimes people think that Tai Chi is just Kung Fu for seniors, and they don't understand how profound it is.
So it could help a teenager?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. See teenagers, they're hunched over their computers or their video games, and older people too. As we age, that happens to us anyway. And then we start to come over and then looking down, and so that's the aspect a sad person has.
Right.
So if somebody's depressed or like this, but you stretch, we open up, and we're happy.
And if someone takes the program and a year later they don't take it, will they have the ability to do it on their own at home?
We encourage people to practice at home, but an instructor is there to, as I said, open the doors to guide you through. You can't see your own Tai Chi. You can't see it being done. And one of the most common things we hear is, but I thought I was. When the instructor gives the little adjustment, I say, well, I thought I was. So it's just, okay, short answer, no.
Well, by this time, hundreds of people, if not more, in Niagara have gone online or gone to a store to buy a treadmill or an elliptical machine or some weights. And conventional wisdom says they use it for a month or two and then it just collects dust in the basement.
It becomes a coat hanger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tai Chi doesn't need expensive equipment. Everywhere I go, I bring exactly what I need, and I can do it anywhere, and I do. I mean, it's something you can practice in line at the bank, subtly. It's really quite, practice it all the time.
How did you get involved with it?
I came up a little bit backwards. I had some serious health issues, but I came to Tai Chi because things were happening in my life and I was very, very stressed about it. And I actually looked up a place and was all set to sign up for Kendo. When I got a phone call saying, do you want to do Tai Chi? And I said yes, because I wanted the focus. I wanted to sort of get my centering back. And I discovered the very profound health benefits that had come from that. Really quite surprising. I was just expecting to sort of calm my mind, but it did, but through a different way, through helping my body.
And how important is balance in Tai Chi?
Exceedingly. That's pretty much all we work on.
Because those of us in a regular gym, we can work all kinds of muscles, but I find many of us don't have balance.
Yeah. Well, the balance is in practice in different ways. Having your hands like this or turning at the same time, and balance in your life, spending time with your family and at the job and Tai Chi and relaxing and that sort of thing, as well as simply not falling down. Although we do work on that a lot. As you age, you tend to fall. And it's from doing everyday things improperly, not getting your feet underneath you, not totally turning and committing that weight and finding your balance before you move. So we teach people to do that. And an exercise as simple as this builds the bones up. So if you do happen to fall and you put your face down, you're less likely to break your wrists, which is a fairly common thing for elderly people.
I would think it would help with sleep.
It does, yeah. If you come with health issues, and a lot of people do, and I did, if you're up to here already with health issues, then every little thing that happens to you is just that one more thing that's very hard to deal with. And when something very serious happens, it's just catastrophic. So as your body relaxes, it takes that much tension away from you. So your mind relaxes, and when your mind relaxes, and you're more open to the understanding of this art, so your body begins to relax again. And then it's very cyclical. It's a dual cultivation of the body and the mind. So, you know, eventually you find yourself, somebody cuts you off in traffic and you wave at them using all 5 fingers. So.
It's interesting because it seems to me that the society that we have today is so fast and so laden with pressure, and I have deadlines, and I've got to do this, I've got to do that. And what you're talking about is a process that slows me down.
Yeah.
Something that doesn't happen normally.
Yeah, and that's a process too. It takes a while before you can relax. That's pretty much the challenge everybody brings in is wanting to relax. We want instant results, and Tai Chi is a process. I mean, it's going to take a while for your understanding to develop and for your body to change. So it's very powerful, but it's not automatic, and you do have to work at it.
I don't know whether you do, but do you talk in your sessions about nutrition and food?
No, we simply teach the art of Taoist Tai Chi.
And but I know some people watching automatically will say, I can't do that. What's your response to them?
My response is, if they think that way, then they can. But that's the same about everything. You can. If I can do it, anybody can do it. I was very, very stiff in my thinking and in my mind. I didn't want to be touched or corrected. Being a police officer for 35 years, my sense of personal space was about as far apart as we are now, thank you very much. Didn't want people behind me or adjusting my art, but I got over that. So it can be done. And the instructors do help.
Can we join at any time, or is there a set time?
Anytime. We have actually an open house in St. Catharines on January 5th, which I thought is going to be too late for, but classes are beginning throughout the region this month.
Good.
And people can join anytime.
Great.
Any progress.
Well, Kim, thanks for coming in and slowing me down a bit.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
I need no encouragement to talk about this.
So we've talked about the hard subject of finances as you're considering leaving your partner or wife or husband, and now we've talked about a way to